Sleeping pills, thrills, and a new king. The inside story of the World Chess Championship. Most people used to believe that chess players were intelligent and kind, but as we learn more about the game, the more we realize that it has an ego issue. Chess World Championships of hypnotists, spies, and multiple toilet breaks? Chess players frequently use various tactics to acquire even the smallest advantages in order to win the title of World Champion. Welcome to Chess Odyssey. The king is dead. Long live the Ding. China's Ding Liren is the new World Chess Champion. After a 24-day, 18-game marathon filled with anxiety and tremendous momentum swings, he is sitting down to speak the day after his spectacular triumph over Russian player Jan Nepomniachtchi. It turns out that Ding goes by the moniker Silent Storm, which is just as highly regarded as his decisive moves in the match. Drama off the board, thunder on it. That was the tale of this World Championship, which began when Magnus Carlsen opted to cede his throne and ended with Ding becoming the 17th World Champion in the annals of classical chess. What does being the World Chess Champion mean today? To win the championship, Ding defeated Jan Nepomniachtchi. However, the rules of the game have changed and the previous status indicators can no longer be as significant. In Astana, Kazakhstan, the World Chess Championship got underway with a flutter of uncertainty which seemed appropriate. A white pawn that Nepomniachtchi had pushed into the middle of the board caught Ding's attention as he sat at the table. Despite Nepomniachtchi's customary initial move, Ding continued to pause. After managing a shaky draw in the first of 14 games, he would later claim that his mind was diverted. "I'm struggling with my feelings and my emotions," he admitted. In November 2021, Magnus Carlsen was questioned by a fan about sharing his birthday cake with Jan Nepomniachtchi at a press conference while the two were engaged in a battle for the World Chess Championship. Both sides of the room grinned in response to the question. What? A cake story? With the history of World Championship matches, I don't think you would accept any piece of food from the opposing team, ever, the Norwegian said. Carlsen, who ultimately won the competition, will not be defending his title at this year's World Championship. Carlsen's jokey remark, though, was an accurate reflection of the undercurrent that permeates every match in the Global Chess Championship. The drama of the most renowned chess tournament goes well beyond the 64 squares, and the strategies employed can even eclipse the Cold War spies' espionage techniques. Just ask Viswanathan Anand, who has competed in numerous World Championship matches against players like Vasilin Topalov, Anatoly Karpov, Boris Gelfand, Vladimir Kramnik, and Carlsen himself. Anand experienced his fair share of psychological ploys to intimidate him in World Championship matches over the years as both a contender and a champion. In Lausanne, Switzerland, in the 1998 World Championship match, Karpov defeated Anand. The Russian made sure that the defeated GM heard him tell a journalist that Anand was a nice guy who doesn't have the character for a big win. Later, when Anand and Topalov squared off in Sofia in 2010, the Bulgarian initially refused to speak to Anand at all during the contest. His manager occasionally pretended to be on the phone in front of the stage during games to give the impression that someone was passing him messages. That might not have been the case, but a supercomputer was actually working in his favor. Little did Topalov know that Anand was receiving assistance from former opponents Kramnik and Kasparov in his preparations, and that Future for Carlsen had sparred with him a few times in the lead-up, demonstrating the reality that chess players rarely have lasting friendships or rivalries. The fact that Anand's team had hired an undercover security agent to make sure that Topalov wasn't abusing his home advantage and installing bugs in the Indians' hotel room brought to light the air of paranoia that permeates players at the height of the World Chess Championship. Forfeits and proxy Cold War. Forfeited games? Topalov and Kramnik engaged in another very heated match in 2006. According to the manager of the Bulgarian team, the Russians made 50 trips to the restroom during one game, which raised suspicion because it was the only place in the arena that wasn't being recorded by cameras. Due to these allegations, the organizers asked the contestants to use the general lavatory instead of their private ones, which they then sealed shut. The ruling body also looked at the video to see how frequently Kramnik used the loo, far less than 50 times. The Russians forfeited the following game in protest of the decision to seal the restrooms. The event planners gave in, the restrooms weren't sealed. The match between Kramnik and Topalov in 2006 wasn't the first forfeited game in the World Chess Championship. That distinction belonged to American Bobby Fischer, who in 1972 met Soviet Union President Boris Spassky in Reykjavik in a meeting that served as a metaphor for the Cold War that was then engulfing the rest of the world. Fischer decided to remain in his hotel room for Game 2 after being upset by the film and TV equipment in his room for Game 1, which he lost. The farce that took place that day was perfectly captured in an almost humorous piece in the New York Times. Spassky sat before the chessboard for about 5 minutes, looking uncomfortable, and then fled the stage. The about 1,000 attendees, I spent an hour staring with a kind of entranced curiosity at the 2 vacant chairs. There was no conversation. Complete silence? Yes. Before we move on, hit that subscribe button. Due to the intense political interest in the match, Fischer was persuaded to play Game 3 by Henry Kissinger, the U.S. Secretary of State at the time, while Spassky was told to return home by the Soviet Chess Federation, a request he disregarded. The third match took place in a segregated area. The American, who was down 2-0 but had a little psychological edge because his demands had been satisfied, duly prevailed. In the 21st game of the competition, he eventually ousted Spassky. But all of that is forgotten when you consider the match between Russians Viktor Korchnoi and Anatoly Karpov in 1978. The former was a Soviet defector who was so despised by the USSR that Soviet media who covered the game referred to him simply as the opponent instead of by his given name. The Soviet Union's blue-eyed boy Karpov declined to shake hands with the defector because of his criticism of the country. The Patriots hired a hypnotist whom he placed in the first row of the stadium during games. In response, the dissident wore sunglasses with mirrors on them. A global chess championship often has a lot of drama and intrigue before the participants ever sit across the board for Game 1. The participants go to considerable effort to gain any advantage over their rival, whether it be material or psychological. This is evident in the months they spent huddling in houses with their seconds in intense preparation for the event itself. At least until the tournament is over, the names of the seconds have been kept a secret. According to Sergei Karjakin's manager, Kirill Zangalis, the Russian general manager spent more than $1 million on preparation for the 2016 World Championship match. The world first saw Carlsen's impenetrable exterior break during that torturous match when the Norwegians stormed out of a press conference before it had even started after losing a game against Karjakin. As Fischer once remarked, chess is a war over the board. The object is to crush the opponent's mind. In this war, there is no room for birthday cakes. What do you think about the drama in this chess world? Let us know in the comments section below. Checkmate that subscribe button. Check out other videos on this channel as well.